Let's talk for a moment about fluency preparation. First, it is important to select a fair passage. If you're using our OG lesson plans, a fair passage is recommended in the lesson. Pre-read each passage and underscore any difficult or unfair words for pre-teaching. Prepare a comprehension question for your students to think about as they're reading. This maintains the focus that the goal of reading is to gain understanding. If you are giving copies of the passages to students, be sure to have them printed and ready to pass out. In kindergarten, we generally have the same passage for 2 lessons. So have students follow your passage on the screen the first day. On the next day, provide students with their own passage. After the second day, send home a copy for students to practice with parents or older siblings. Now let's take a closer look at our fluency procedure. First, introduce the passage and remove any obstacles that may prevent the students from reading fluently. Words that are critical to support understanding should be simply explained. Pre-teach names and unfair words in the passage. Pose the comprehension question for students. Demonstrate how to read fluently by reading the passage to students as they follow along. Be sure to point to words as you read. This will help students with understanding directionality. At the beginning of the year, echo read the passage with your students before choral reading. Echo reading is, the teacher reads a sentence or phrase, then students repeat it. We want to move away from this step quickly, perhaps after 2 weeks, so students are practicing decoding and reading fluency and not simply repeating. Next, students chorally read the passage along with you. Be sure to point to the words while reading. Finally, students chorally read the passage without you, as you continue to point to the words. After these 3 or 4 readings, pose your comprehension question to students. When possible, frame your question with an answer stem so that answers can be responded to chorally and not individually. Or you can also have students discuss the answer with a partner. Then summarize what you heard students say to be sure they understand the response. Later in the year, you may want to consider partner reading. This would be done after choral reading and before the comprehension question. The important issue is pairing your students. You want to pair students who are equal or close in skill level and can read fairly independently. You can then support the students who are not able to read the passage independently. Now that we've previewed this procedure, let's give it a shot. We're going to practice our fluency procedure. Our story today is Ed. Ed is the name of the pet in this passage. Notice where I am pointing that the word Ed has a symbol and an S following it. The symbol is an apostrophe, and with the S, it means that something belongs to Ed. The word is pronounced Eds. What's the word?
Eds.
Look at this word. This belongs to Ed. What is the word?
Leg.
So, this says Ed's leg and means that the leg belongs to Ed. Now, let's look at other words in the story and see if we notice any patterns we recognize. First, I see many words with an E in the middle. What is the sound of the letter E? I also see some words with our new patterns that we learned go at the end of a short word. Do you see SS, CK, LL in some of the words? Say the sounds as I underline these patterns.
S, K, O, S, S, O.
Today, as we read this story, we're going to see if we can figure out what caused Ed to be sick. Listen to me model read the story. You follow along as I read with expression. Ed. Bess has a pet. The pet is Ed. Bess fed Ed. Ed got sick. Ed fell. Ed's leg was a mess. Bess got the vet. Then Ed got well. Now I would like for you to do some choral reading with me. So let's go ahead and start just beneath the title, and let's read together, seeing if we can keep our voices together, reading with expression. Bess has a pet. The pet is Ed. Bess fed Ed. Ed got sick. Ed fell. Ed's leg was a mess. Bess got the vet. Then Ed got well. Let's read one more time, but this time without me. Remember to keep your voices together and read with expression. I'll support you if you need help. Let's begin.
Bess has a pet. The pet is Ed. Bess fed Ed. Ed got sick. Ed fell. Ed's leg was a mess. Bess got the vet. Then Ed got well.
Very nice. Now, let's talk about the question I shared earlier. What do you think made Ed sick? Please turn to your partner and talk about your answers.
I'm sick? Well, I think that the food was rotten.
He ate too much.
That maybe it was
Maybe
old,
he ate
and
too
that's what made him
fast.
sick.
Oh, maybe he ate too much and too fast.
That could be.
Okay, stop. What I heard was that many of you thought either the food was rotten and that made Ed sick, or that he ate too much food and maybe ate it too fast. Well done, everyone. That concludes our fluency practice.